In the quiet cul-de-sacs of Maple Creek safety was a silent, assumed right. It was the promise, whispered by rustling leaves and the glow of streetlights, a covenant of peace in every locked door and familiar routine. But what happens when that sanctuary is breached, not by force, but by a subtle deception, a wolf at the very threshold in an era where our lives unfold under the watchful, unblinking eye of digital sentinels? We often place our trust in convenience, in the seamless flow of modern life. We believe the screens protect us, that their omnipresence deters the darkness. Yet sometimes, these very windows into our world reveal not just an innocuous exchange, but the insidious unraveling of safety itself. When an everyday act of consumerism becomes a prelude to unthinkable violence, and the last moments of a vibrant life are recorded not by a human witness, but by a cold, objective lens, what terrifying truth can a silent digital witness truly reveal when the night conceals a deadly secret? In Maple Creek, a suburb cradled by ancient oaks, the pervasive sense of security was almost palpable. It settled over every meticulously kept lawn and softly illuminated window, a quiet assurance that life here unfolded with an undisturbed rhythm. Porch lights often glowed late into the night, not from a whisper of fear, but as a comforting guide for weary travelers returning home. Clara Hayes, a vibrant 28-year-old nurse, embodied the tranquility of this setting. Her demanding days at St. Jude's Hospital, a whirlwind of critical decisions and empathetic care, gave way to evenings meticulously crafted for serenity. These quiet hours invariably culminated in a steaming mug of chamomile tea, the rustle of turning pages from a cherished novel, and the soft rhythmic purr of Whiskers, her rescue cat, nestled close by. This tranquil routine was her personal anchor, a quiet affirmation of a life brimming with purpose and simple yet profound joys. As the Tuesday night deepened, drifting past midnight and drawing the neighborhood into a profound slumber, a seemingly unremarkable event began its unfolding. A lone delivery van, its headlights slicing through the inky blackness, traced its path along Clara's street. It was a ubiquitous sight in the modern age, a silent envoy of convenience bringing the world directly to one's doorstep, even when most slept. The vehicle eased to a gentle stop before Clara's charming bungalow, its engine a barely audible thrum. The driver, a figure defined by the corporate emblem on his uniform, emerged with a small rectangular package. It was a smart speaker, an anticipated addition. Clara had ordered a minor indulgence for her thoughtfully organized home. He ascended the 3 porch steps, package held loosely, and pressed the doorbell. The polite 2-note chime seemed disproportionately loud in the profound silence of the hour. As the porch light flickered to life, briefly ensnaring the driver in its stark, revealing glow, an unsettling undercurrent began to subtly ripple. It was an almost imperceptible shiver in the air, a discord too faint to be consciously noted, yet potent enough to disturb the suburban quiet. The raw light, unforgiving in its intensity, cast exaggerated, wavering shadows that subtly twisted the familiar into something subtly ominous. The door, a cheerful robin's egg blue by day, opened inward, just a crack offering only the elusive silhouette of Clara against the warm, inviting light of her living room. This fleeting tableau of domesticity, an exchange replicated countless times in countless homes, was a moment of interaction between 2 strangers. But for Clara Hayes, this midnight transaction would be her last. The package disappeared inward, the door closed with a soft click, and the porch light vanished back into darkness. The subsequent silence was not the peaceful hush of a sleeping street, but a void far thicker, unnaturally profound. It consumed the night, leaving behind only the ceaseless chirping of crickets and the chilling, unspoken premonition that on this ordinary Tuesday the world had been irrevocably altered. Clara Hayes, by every measure, was a radiant presence, a wellspring of compassion that touched everyone she encountered. Her mother, Evelyn Hayes, often recounted Clara's infectious laugh, a sound that possessed the rare ability to cut through any shadow, truly brightening even the darkest of rooms. Daniel Hayes, her father, and a man of quiet observation, spoke with a subtle pride of Clara's relentless devotion, particularly to her patients. Her approach to nursing at St. Jude's Hospital transcended mere duty. It was a sacred calling. She routinely extended her shifts, her comforting hand or reassuring word, often the last balm offered long after her official duties had concluded. This profound dedication, sharpened by her keen intellect, culminated in her recent promotion to charge nurse, a hard-won dream earned through years of diligent application. Away from the rigorous demands of the hospital, Clara's empathetic spirit sought further expression. She volunteered her precious free hours at a local animal shelter, her gentle touch and quiet patience a true solace to the most vulnerable creatures. Her evenings often involved the contented purr of Whiskers, a scruffy rescue cat who had found a forever home in Clara's care. Her bungalow, a vivid canvas of her vibrant inner world, was adorned with eclectic art pieces collected from her adventurous travels and stacks of worn books that mirrored her thoughtful, inquiring mind. Her close-knit circle of friends, who relied on her steady wisdom, remembered her as the unwavering anchor in their lives, often the first voice they sought for comfort in crisis, or the spontaneous spark igniting an unexpected adventure. They consistently spoke of her boundless capacity for joy, her rare gift for elevating the mundane into something truly extraordinary. Clara's future had unfurled before her, a panorama of boundless possibilities, each shimmering with vibrant promise. Ambitious plans for further education, dreams of humanitarian work, reaching distant shores, and the profound richness of deep connections populated her horizon. That future, however, was now a cruel, unforgiving blank, savagely extinguished with a sudden, incomprehensible brutality. Her abrupt absence ripped open a chasm in the lives of her family and friends, a void that echoed relentlessly with unanswerable questions. What malevolent forces could have conspired to silence such a vibrant life, and what profound disquiet now permeated the world that had lost her illumination? The immensity of their grief was immeasurable, a raw anguish mirroring the stark, impenetrable mystery that now shrouded her final moments, demanding a truth that felt agonizingly out of reach. Dawn broke over Maple Creek, but the gentle light offered no solace. An unnatural quiet, heavier than any pre-commute stillness, pressed down on Clara Hayes' street, absorbing even the first tentative birdsong that usually heralded the day. Mrs. Henderson, Clara's elderly neighbor, was a creature of meticulous habit. Each morning, without fail, she would observe Clara's silver sedan backing out of the driveway by 6:15 a.m., a punctual departure for her early shift at St. Jude's. Today, however, Clara's car remained starkly in place, an immobile anomaly against the soft emerging light. Her usual morning ritual of coffee and the news was interrupted by a growing unease. It tightened in her chest, a premonition she couldn't quite dismiss. After a hesitant 10 minutes, her concern overriding her natural inclination not to intrude, she decided on a welfare check. Her cautious footsteps on Clara's porch sounded unnaturally loud in the profound quiet. A single, then a more frantic knock echoed, swallowed by the silence. No response. Her gaze then dropped, locking onto the front door, usually secured it, stood ajar by a mere sliver, a gap of unsettling darkness that beckoned with an ominous invitation. Trepidation warred with a desperate burgeoning need to know. Pushing the door open gingerly, Mrs. Henderson's breath hitched in her throat. The air inside was still and cold heavy, with a coppery scent she couldn't immediately identify, but instinctively recoiled from. Her eyes adjusted to the dim light, registering a scene that stole her breath, ripping a raw, primal scream from her throat. It tore through the suburban calm, a sound of pure terror that shattered the morning's quiet. Moments later, the urgent crackle of police dispatch sliced through the early morning air units, responding to a 2400-block Maple Creek lane. Welfare check escalating. Possible 1054 female unresponsive. Looks like a homicide. Get homicide out here. We got a situation. Patrol cars, sirens momentarily muted until they hit the main thoroughfare, converged on the bungalow. Their flashing blue and red lights painted the peaceful street in a macabre strobe, transforming the tranquil setting into a nexus of frantic activity. The scene rapidly descended into a controlled chaos, a searing tableau of life violently interrupted. Uniformed officers quickly secured the perimeter yellow crime scene tape, unfurling with grim efficiency, their methodical steps navigating the fragile landscape of a nightmare made real. Amidst the swirling activity, Detective Sergeant Mark Thorne arrived, his stoic demeanor a familiar anchor in the escalating emergency. His eyes, honed by years of exposure to humanity's darkest acts, swept the scene, absorbing every detail. He noted the meticulously maintained flower beds, the innocent swing set in the backyard, and then his gaze snagged on a small blinking light near the front door frame. It was an unassuming device, barely noticeable against the faded blue trim, a silent sentinel that had recorded the final horrifying moments. In the swirling chaos, Detective Thorne recognized it for what it was: the potential for an objective truth, a digital eye that might have captured everything no human witnessed. Detective Sergeant Mark Thorne, a figure of unyielding resolve and observational prowess, honed over decades with the Maple Creek Police Department, entered Clara Hayes's bungalow, his partner Detective Anya Sharma a step behind. The air inside, heavy and cold, conveyed the profound tragedy even before their eyes confirmed it. The initial assessment painted a grim tableau. Clara Hayes lay dead within her own home, a single brutal injury indicative of a swift, violent attack. The immediate scene, however, yielded few answers. No signs of forced entry, no shattered glass or splintered wood suggested a struggle. The house itself remained meticulously undisturbed, an unsettling detail that immediately pointed to a perpetrator intimately familiar with the victim, or one operating with chilling methodical precision. The absence of a clear narrative of any overt physical struggle or blatant breach cast a profound shadow over the initial hours. The investigative team moved with practiced efficiency, yet beneath their professional demeanor, a quiet frustration began to take root. This was the kind of case that threatened to pull an investigation into a bottomless abyss of uncertainty, where a seemingly tranquil residential street could conceal the darkest of secrets, baffling even the most seasoned minds. The questions mounted relentlessly. Who had done this? And by what means? Without a forced entry, without human witnesses, the path forward seemed to vanish into the depths of the suburban night. Yet, amidst the methodical movements of forensics technicians and uniformed officers, a small, unassuming device near the front door offered a glimmer of possibility. Detective Thorne, his gaze methodically sweeping the perimeter, had already noted its subtle, persistent blink. Now he approached it directly, his eyes fixed on the small, unblinking lens of the doorbell camera. It sat there, an innocuous piece of modern technology, yet its very presence now suggested a silent, digital sentinel. "This could be everything," Thorne murmured, the words barely audible, but pregnant with the weight of profound potential. It was a rare moment where the labyrinthine path of an investigation suddenly seemed to gain a clear directional force. The immediate challenge lay not merely in its existence, but in its dormant memory. Accessing the camera's stored footage, extracting its silent testimony, and then meticulously interpreting every pixel and shadow would become the critical first step in unlocking the truth of Clara Hayes's final horrifying moments. In this quiet suburban tragedy, the most ordinary of devices held the potential to speak volumes, to offer an objective, unblinking account that human eyes had missed. The entire investigation, for now, hinged on the silent whisper of a digital witness. The doorbell video, once painstakingly extracted and meticulously processed by the forensic lab, swiftly became the crucial lens through which investigators glimpsed Clara Hayes's last night. The team, comprising seasoned technicians and digital evidence specialists, worked with an almost reverent precision, keenly aware of the immense weight its silent record carried. The initial playback, observed in the stark quiet of the analysis room, painted a familiar tableau of everyday suburban life. A man in a standard delivery uniform, his features indistinct in the low resolution and obscured by the camera's angle, placing a small package on Clara's porch. He pressed the doorbell, a brief, unassuming ring. Clara's door then opened inward, a mere crack, her silhouette momentarily visible as she reached out to accept the delivery. It was a scene replicated countless times across the nation, an emblem of modern convenience. But then a subtle anomaly emerged, a discordant note in the seemingly mundane sequence. The delivery driver, instead of immediately turning to descend the steps and depart, lingered for a beat too long. His body language initially relaxed, and procedural shifted almost imperceptibly, a slight hesitation, a subtle tension in his shoulders. It was a detail easily missed upon first glance, a flicker of something profoundly amiss. And then from the periphery of the frame, previously swallowed by the deep shadows of the porch's alcove and the limiting angle of the camera, a second figure materialized. This individual moved with an unsettling fluidity, a predatory grace that belied their sudden appearance. The subsequent moments imprinted in the digital record laid bare the true terror of the midnight exchange. The video recorded a fleeting, desperate struggle, a muffled sound, indistinct yet unmistakably violent, followed by a sudden, jarring lurch of Clara's silhouette. The struggle was swift, brutal, and terrifyingly efficient. Then, with an ominous thud that resonated even through the digital playback, the door swung shut, sealing the violence within. Porch was left abruptly empty once more, bathed in the deceptive tranquility of the suburban night. The seemingly innocuous midnight delivery was irrevocably exposed, not as a simple transaction, but as a meticulously orchestrated prelude to a violent abduction a profound violation masked by mundane service. The investigators watched grim-faced as the cameras captured evidence laid bare, a calculated act of terror transforming a simple consumer interaction into a meticulously planned assault. The video had spoken its silent, pixelated sequence, offering a horrifying, unbiased record of Clara Hayes' final desperate moments. It was a stark, unvarnished truth, a digital indictment that now irrevocably steered the entire direction of their investigation. The revelations captured in the Doorbell video sent a palpable jolt through the investigative team. Initial shock quickly yielded to a focused intensity, every eye turning towards the most immediately visible figure, Liam Jenkins, the young man in the delivery uniform. He instantly became the prime suspect, his lingered presence on Clara's porch now viewed through a vastly different, more suspicious lens. Detectives Thorne and Sharma moved swiftly, bringing Jenkins in for questioning within hours. His initial demeanor was a carefully constructed blend of bewilderment and eager cooperation, a facade of shock mingled with an earnest desire to clear his name. He adamantly denied any knowledge or involvement in Clara's fate, portraying himself as nothing more than a diligent employee performing his route. Liam Jenkins, a clean-cut young man with no prior criminal record, presented a robust alibi. His company's GPS logs meticulously tracked his movements, charting a precise course of deliveries across multiple neighborhoods throughout the night. Dispatch records, further corroborated by customer signatures and time-stamped transactions, placed him miles away from Clara's bungalow at the exact moment the second figure appeared. Every piece of his alibi held firm under intense scrutiny, systematically dismantling the theory of his direct culpability. Yet the video, an unblinking witness, still showed him lingering for that crucial beat. Was he merely an unwitting pawn coerced into a deadly game? Or had he simply sensed an unspoken threat before swiftly retreating? The question hung heavy in the air, a persistent shadow of doubt, even as the primary investigative focus shifted. With Liam Jenkins seemingly cleared of direct involvement, the investigation broadened, delving deeper into Clara Hayes' life. Detectives sought any discord, any unresolved conflict that might explain the horror at her doorstep. Potential leads emerged from her past, each offering a brief flicker of hope before receding into ambiguity. There was Ryan Harding, a disgruntled ex-boyfriend known for his possessive streak, who had struggled to accept their breakup months prior. Then Marcus Thorne, no relation to the detective, former patient at St. Jude's, with a history of developing unsettling fixations on his nurses, who had sent Clara a series of unwanted gifts and increasingly fervent emails. Even a quirky neighbor, Frank Miller, known for his volatile temper and frequent complaints about Clara's rescue cat Whiskers, briefly entered their radar. Each of these avenues, meticulously pursued, led to the same disheartening conclusion: a dead end. Harding's alibi proved ironclad, placing him out of state. Marcus Thorne's digital footprint showed no contact with Clara after a cease and desist order, and Frank Miller, for all his bluster, was home with his wife, who provided a verifiable witness account. The detectives found themselves grappling with a growing sense of frustration, the investigation threatening to drift into an infuriating maze of misdirection. The Doorbell video, while undeniably crucial in revealing a second shadowy figure and confirming an abduction, offered no clear identifying features, a frustrating blur that stubbornly defied identification. It left them with an undeniable truth, but no clear path to its perpetrator, the tantalizing evidence becoming in essence an infuriating red herring hinting at a truth it refused to fully disclose. Days bled into weeks, each passing sunset deepening the shadows cast by the unsolved case. The initial burst of activity surrounding the doorbell video had settled into a frustrating stalemate. The second figure from the footage remained an enigma, a phantom of pixels, a digital specter that taunted investigators with its tantalizing yet unidentifiable presence. Desperation, a quiet, insidious foe, began to creep into the weary corners of the police station, threatening to extinguish the last flicker of hope. Leads had run dry, theories exhausted, and Clara Hayes's case, once so promising, risked sliding into the cold files of the unsolved. Detective Anya Sharma, however, possessed an unwavering tenacity, a refusal to surrender to the mounting pressure. One late night, long after the rest of the team had departed, she was alone in the viewing room, immersed in her own meticulous re-examination of the doorbell footage. The grainy video paused, rewound, and replayed countless times, flickered across the screen. She had scrutinized it so often that the figure's movements felt etched into her memory. This time, though, something infinitesimal caught her eye, a minute detail previously dismissed as a stray reflection or visual artifact amidst the urgency of initial analysis. As the shadowy figure moved into view, just before the door abruptly closed, a barely perceptible flicker of light reflected off something on their left wrist. It was too fleeting, too brief to be a watch, but it held a distinct, almost metallic glint. Sharma leaned closer, her eyes narrowing, a spark of recognition igniting in the depths of her weary mind. She immediately summoned the forensic video enhancement team. For hours, they worked with painstaking precision, frame by agonizing frame, isolating the microsecond of the glint. Through advanced digital magnification and contrast adjustments, the indistinct shimmer began to resolve into something more concrete. It was a distinctive hand-carved bracelet, intricate in its design, almost like a unique signature etched onto the wrist of the unknown assailant. The details remained fuzzy, but the unique pattern was undeniable. This minute detail, overlooked in the chaos and haste of the early investigation, suddenly became the singular thread capable of pulling the entire tapestry of the crime into sharp, terrifying focus. It felt like a sudden, forceful strike against the seemingly impenetrable wall of anonymity, transforming an amorphous shadow, a nameless threat, into a discernible individual. The discovery was a powerful jolt, an electric current of renewed purpose that coursed through the weary team, reigniting the flame of determination that had threatened to dwindle into ash. The digital ghost now bore a distinct, if not yet identified mark. The singularly distinctive hand-carved bracelet, though barely visible in the enhanced doorbell footage, became the absolute cornerstone of the investigation. It was the crucial fragment of evidence, promising to dismantle the shroud of anonymity enveloping Clara's killer. Detective Thorne mobilized swiftly. A public appeal was immediately issued, broadcasting the magnified image of the bracelet across local news channels and social media platforms, urging anyone who recognized such a piece or its wearer to come forward. Tips flooded in a veritable deluge of information that demanded meticulous vetting by a dedicated task force. Each call, every email, every online comment represented a potential thread in a labyrinthine web requiring immediate attention and rigorous verification. Many proved to be unproductive tangents, mistaken identities, or well-intentioned, yet unhelpful observations. But amidst the clamor, one anonymous call originating from a burner phone resonated with chilling clarity. The caller identified the bracelet as belonging to Randy Miller, a name that stirred a subtle, persistent unease from within Clara's past. Randy Miller, A former volunteer at the same animal shelter where Clara had so devotedly spent her free time was not an unknown entity. He had interacted with Clara briefly, their paths intersecting for a few months before she had, with quiet purpose, begun to distance herself. Witnesses from the shelter described Randy as habitually withdrawn, almost taciturn, yet possessing an unsettling intensity that Clara, a woman finely attuned to the nuances of human behavior, had found deeply discomforting. He had developed a disconcerting habit of lingering after her shifts, manufacturing flimsy excuses to remain in her vicinity. Claire had confided in a close friend about his creepy vibes, her intuition raising a quiet but firm alarm. A deeper dive into Randy Miller's background uncovered a profoundly disturbing pattern, a dark undercurrent beneath his outwardly innocuous demeanor. His history included escalating harassment, marked by a succession of restraining orders from former female acquaintances who had rebuffed his advances. Each rejection seemed to inflame a perverse sense of entitlement, manifesting in obsessive behaviors that grew increasingly bold and menacing. The scattered pieces of information, once seemingly disconnected, now clicked into place with an alarming, terrifying precision. The quiet oddities, the unsettling intensity, the documented history of harassment, all converged, forming a stark, chilling portrait of a predator. Armed with this damning intelligence, surveillance on Randall Miller was immediately initiated. Detectives shadowed his every movement, their patience unyielding. What they observed unequivocally solidified their suspicions. Randy Miller indeed wore an identical, intricately hand-carved bracelet on his left wrist, a unique piece he reportedly crafted himself as a personal emblem. It was a perfect, irrefutable match to the blurred image, a silent scream captured by the doorbell camera. The digital ghost from Clara's porch now had a name, a discernible face, and a dangerous history that perfectly dovetailed with the brutal act. The case had taken a decisive, irreversible turn. The path to justice, once obscured by shadows, was now illuminated with a chilling, undeniable clarity. The arrest of Randall Miller was executed with swift, surgical precision, a calculated maneuver to ensure his capture without incident. He was apprehended as he left his apartment, offering no resistance, his face a carefully blank canvas of feigned surprise. Ushered into the stark confines of the interrogation room, Randy initially adopted a persona of bewildered innocence, feigning complete ignorance of Clara Hayes and the horrific crime that had traumatized Maple Creek. "I don't know who did this," he stated, his voice calm, almost unnervingly placid, his hands resting lightly on the table, a picture of false composure. He looked directly at Detective Thorne, his eyes wide and seemingly guileless. Detective Thorne, however, was a seasoned master of the interrogation's psychological chess match. He began with a non-threatening report-building approach, his voice a low, even cadence. He spoke of Clara Hayes's tragic loss, the community's profound grief, and the unyielding determination to find answers. Then, with a slow, deliberate tightening of the psychological noose, he began to present the evidence incrementally. He spoke of the midnight delivery, the digital recording, the presence of a second shadowy figure. Finally, with a deliberate, almost theatrical precision, Thorne slid an enlarged still photograph from the doorbell video across the table. It showed the undeniable image of the distinctive hand-carved bracelet glinting on Randy's left wrist. The carefully constructed facade began to splinter. Randy's eyes, previously so open, darted almost imperceptibly towards the image, then away. His jaw, moments ago relaxed, subtly tensed, a muscle working beneath the skin. The placid demeanor dissolved, replaced by a flickering, deeply unsettling unease. His initial blanket denial abruptly shifted. He now launched into a convoluted narrative, a desperate fabrication of a chance encounter with Clara that night escalating into a consensual secret affair. He claimed she had invited him in a narrative instantly disproved by Clara's meticulously kept schedule, her documented discomfort with him, and the absolute absence of any prior contact beyond the animal shelter. This elaborate fantasy was a transparent, desperate attempt to explain his presence at the scene and preempt any discovery of incriminating forensic evidence. But Thorne, ever the strategist, had anticipated such a maneuver. He allowed the story to unfurl, listening with a detached professional patience before leaning forward. His voice hardened each word, a hammer blow against Randy's crumbling lies. "Then why would your DNA be inside her?" he demanded, the question cutting through Randy's faltering narrative like a surgical blade. The raw weight of the accusation, coupled with the undeniable truth of physical evidence, proved too much. Randy's carefully maintained composure shattered, revealing the agitated, defensive man beneath. He recoiled slightly, his eyes flashing with desperate anger, his breath catching in a ragged gasp. The cat and mouse game continued for a few more tense minutes, but the ultimate truth, captured by the unblinking eye of the doorbell camera, and now cemented by irrefutable forensic science, was no longer in question. It was firmly, irrevocably present, in the room, trapping the predator in his own suffocating web of deception. The trial of Randall Miller riveted Maple Creek, captivating an audience far beyond the courthouse doors. Every local newspaper and news broadcast meticulously chronicled the proceedings, a collective gaze fixed on the prosecution led by the formidable District Attorney Eleanor Vance. Vance presented a meticulously constructed case, its undeniable centerpiece, a single silent witness, the doorbell video. The courtroom hushed to a profound stillness as the grainy footage of Clara Hayes' last moments played out on large screens. Frame by agonizing frame, the jury watched the chilling emergence of the second figure, the sudden lurch, and the undeniable glint of the distinctive bracelet on the assailant's wrist. The digital images, once a frustrating enigma, now served as an objective, unblinking account, providing a chilling narrative that transcended spoken testimony. Forensic video experts took the stand, their testimonies dissecting the footage with scientific precision. They authenticated every pixel, explaining the intricate enhancement process that rendered the bracelet in such sharp, incriminating detail. Their meticulous breakdown of timestamps and angles left no room for doubt regarding the video's veracity. Following them, Detective Thorne and his partner, Detective Sharma, guided the jury through the painstaking investigative journey. Thorne recounted the initial discovery, the exhaustive search for leads, and then with calm, methodical detail exposed Randy Miller's shifting, self-serving narratives during his interrogation. Sharma highlighted her crucial discovery of the bracelet, emphasizing how that one-minute detail had irrevocably broken the case wide open. The defense, marshaled by a seasoned but visibly struggling public defender, labored to sow seeds of doubt. They argued vigorously that the video, despite enhancements, remained inconclusive, suggesting the blurred image of the second figure could be anyone, leading to mistaken identity. They attempted to deflect blame onto Liam Jenkins, the delivery driver, highlighting his lingering presence on the porch as a suspicious act implying complicity or even primary guilt. However, their arguments crumbled under the weight of overwhelming counter-evidence. Liam Jenkins's alibi, meticulously corroborated by GPS logs, dispatch records, and independent witness statements, proved unshakable. More critically, the physical evidence, including DNA unequivocally traced back to Randall Miller, found at the scene painted an irrefutable, damning picture. Evelyn and Daniel Hayes sat stoically in the gallery, their faces etched with a profound, almost unimaginable sorrow. Yet their gaze remained locked on Randall Miller. They sat united, in their grief silently awaiting justice for their beloved daughter. The atmosphere in the courtroom grew thick with tension as days of testimony gave way to impassioned closing arguments and nerve-wracking jury deliberations. Finally, after hours that stretched into eternity for the Hayes family, the jury returned. The four-person's voice, clear and unhesitant, delivered the verdict guilty on all counts. A collective breath seemed to release throughout the courtroom, a somber confirmation that for Clara, a measure of justice had finally been achieved. Courtroom fell into an immediate, profound silence as the verdict of guilty reverberated, a collective breath held and then slowly, somberly released. All eyes then turned to Evelyn Hayes, Clara's mother, as she rose from her seat in the gallery. Gone was the fragmented, tearful grief that had punctuated her earlier halting interviews. Instead, an almost unnerving, authoritative calm settled over her, a controlled stillness born of unfathomable sorrow, transmuted into an unwavering resolve. She walked to the podium, her back straight, her gaze never wavering, as she fixed it directly upon Randall Miller. Her voice, though deliberately modulated and soft, possessed an internal, formidable strength that effortlessly filled every corner of the room, cutting through the thick air with the precision of a surgeon's blade. Clara was not merely a statistic. Evelyn began her words, deliberate, each one infused with the crushing weight of her loss. She was not just a case number, nor a tragic headline. She was the warmth that radiated through our home, the spontaneous laughter that filled our lives, the unwavering promise of a future you, Randall Miller, stole with cold, calculated cruelty. Her hands, which had trembled in earlier appearances, now rested firmly on the podium, grounding her. There were no tears, now no raw, guttural sobs that had racked her body in private moments. Instead, a controlled, simmering fury burned steadily behind her eyes, a righteous anger that lent her an almost fearsome composure. It was an eloquent, methodical dismantling of Miller's humanity, a testament to Clara's vibrant life, rendered as a stark, unforgiving contrast to the darkness of his actions. You believed you could eradicate her, Evelyn continued, her voice gaining a subtle rising intensity, extinguish her vibrant spirit, blot her memory from the world. But you only succeeded in cementing her presence, carving her essence deeper into the hearts of all who loved her. You may have brutally taken her life, but you could never dim the radiant light she left behind. Her eyes, unwavering, held Randall Miller's for a long, drawn-out moment, a silent, powerful confrontation that seemed to draw all the air from the room. "Randall Miller," she declared, her voice, now ringing with a clear, resonant authority, "must never be allowed to walk the earth as a free person. Your act was not merely a crime against Clara. It was an assault on the very fabric of our community's trust, a violation of the peace we once believed was ours. And for that, you will answer, not only to man, to the laws of this land, but to God himself." Her final words, imbued with a mother's profound personal pain and unshakable conviction, resonated with devastating finality throughout the hushed courtroom. It was a promise of eternal consequence, a vow for an irreversible justice. The conviction of Randall Miller offered the Hayes family a crucial measure of legal closure a necessary step in the harrowing journey through unimaginable grief. Yet a profound void left by Clara's absence remained in the lives of Evelyn and Daniel Hayes and all who cherished her. Legal justice had been delivered, but the ache of loss persisted, a silent, unyielding testament to the vibrant life brutally extinguished. Maple Creek, once viewed by its residents as an almost idyllic haven, now confronted a stark, unwelcome reality. The brutal efficiency of Clara's murder shattered the comforting illusion of impenetrable safety, exposing the unsettling truth that malevolence could take root even in the deepest suburban shadows. The very tranquility that had defined their community now felt irrevocably tainted, fragile, against the knowledge of such insidious acts unfolding on their quiet, tree-lined streets. The case served as a chilling reminder of the delicate boundary between a perceived sanctuary and the sudden, unforeseen eruption of danger. For Detective Sergeant Mark Thorne and Detective Anya Sharma, the verdict marked the closing of another demanding chapter in their relentless careers. It affirmed their unwavering dedication, their methodical pursuit of truth, and the quiet resilience embedded in police work. Thorne, ever the stoic, found a somber satisfaction in seeing a perpetrator brought to justice. Sharma, whose keen eye had uncovered the crucial detail, acknowledged the profound weight of their combined efforts. This was another case pulled from the clutches of uncertainty, a victory for the living achieved through human tenacity and the silent vigilance of modern technology. The unassuming doorbell camera, initially installed for casual convenience, had utterly transcended its original purpose. It had evolved into a pivotal witness, its digital memory unlocking a desperate search for answers and forging an undeniable path to justice. Its silent, pixelated frames had meticulously chronicled the horror, offering an objective truth no human testimony could have rivaled. Clara Hayes's tragic story, a vibrant existence brutally cut short by a midnight delivery gone wrong, became a poignant, sobering lesson for an increasingly interconnected world. It underscored a profound shift in our understanding of privacy and security, that even the most intimate, seemingly protected moments within our homes could inadvertently be laid bare. It revealed that sometimes the most commonplace devices, the everyday tools of modern life, could conceal the most profound and terrifying secrets. In this new landscape, these electronic sentinels stand as a testament, ensuring that even when shadows deepen and truth seems lost, justice might still find its way to light illuminated by the unblinking eye of digital vigilance. The silent witness of our digital age ensures that no darkness can forever hide the truth. If you found yourself gripped by this pursuit of justice, where even a doorbell camera can pierce the deepest shadows, subscribe to Shadow Files for more untold stories. Don't forget to subscribe to Shadow Files and hit the notification bell